Managing Small Group Conflict Productively, Chapter 9. So, what is conflict? We have all sorts of myths about conflict, types of conflict, conflict types, computer-mediated communication, conflict types and computer-mediated communication, managing group conflict. What is conflict? Conflict occurs when disordered ideas or feelings are expressed or experienced between two independent parties. This definition emphasizes the central role of communication during a conflict. Conflict can increase cohesiveness in a group. One of the things you find that when you look at the conflict and you have how it can increase cohesiveness in a group, you have people engaging in dialogue. And in the course of engaging in dialogue, you get to learn things. You acquire knowledge and you share knowledge and stuff. And you, in essence, you can connect with people in that way while you're engaging in that process. So, myths about conflict. Myth 1, conflict is harmful and should be avoided. In reality, conflict can help members understand the issue more clearly. Conflict can improve decisions. So this is what I was referring to. When you engage in that, it's like, oh, that's a harmful thing. No, it can actually help you understand something more thoroughly and help you engage and improve decisions because, you're engaging in dialogue. Myth 2, conflict represents misunderstanding. Conflicts can occur over differences in values, goals, and methods of achieving goals or limited resources. So when you look at in reality, you have this, how it can occur with all these different things you factor in. But, it doesn't always represent a misunderstanding. It can be just differences in other things. Myth 3, conflict can be resolved if parties are willing to discuss. Conflicts over values may not be resolved. There are some things that you may not resolve. And I'll give you an example, values. When you look at this is something that's deep rooted. And it's something that comes from almost from someone's very being up into who they are. So to be able to go and get somebody to have a conflict over that and to resolve that, that's probably not going to happen. Types of conflict. Task conflict results from a disagreement over ideas, information, reasoning, or evidence. So this is usually work-related. Good decisions emerge when you have people who engage in this. There's some disagreements, there's some misunderstanding, but whatever is work-related. So one of the things about being work-related is people have to come to a conclusion. They have to work together to come to reach a common goal. So you do get good decisions that can emerge from that. Relational conflict results from personality clashes, likes and dislikes, and competition for power, rooted in superiority. Clashes emerge over such factors as personalities, learning styles, priorities, openness to experience, or perspectives due to age and culture. So when you're looking at relationships, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of times I've seen this almost more than I've seen the other in my careers, because some people just they're polar opposites, and their personalities don't work, or someone's learning style, or how someone conducts business, their conduct of business, how they go about things. So you find this sometimes it happens, and you do find some people where it's rooted in seniority, how they truly believe that they're better than other people. Types of conflict. Process conflict occurs over how to do something and members contribute to the group. So we're looking at deals with how the group will accomplish its work. Also involves how much group members contribute to the group work. The type of conflict has both task and relationship dimension. So when you look at the process conflict, it's a lot of times it's about how to do something, how to go about getting something, the way you're doing it. And how it can, you can run into conflicts with that, with just different people because they see things different, so they would want to do things different. So, computer-mediated communications, I'm referring to it as CMC. Groups initially displayed more relational and task conflict over procedures. So, over time, this conflict lessened, especially as members become familiar with how to use technology. So I will tell you, when you see this sometimes, it can be for people who are kind of like challenged or older, and you have younger people who are more tech savvy and things along those lines. So it can be age or generational. in a situation like that. And you need to understand that. There are numerous ways to manage conflict. Approaches to conflict can be summarized by answering two questions. How important is it to satisfy your own needs? How important is it to satisfy the needs of the other person? So when you look at that, you have to ask yourself that question. How is it important for you to satisfy your needs or their needs? And and think about this. I tell people, choose your battles wisely, because sometimes, do you really want to go to battle over something that may not be that important to you? Yeah, you may have let's just say, it means a lot to one person, but it doesn't mean that much to you, but you do have a little conflict. That's an opportunity for you to give a little bit and work with someone, because the next time around, the shoe may be on the other foot. 5 conflict management styles. So you see, avoidance describes a person's unwillingness to confront or engage in a conflict. Always the worst. That means somebody's not willing to do their job, or someone's not willing to step up to the occasion. Accommodation describes a person's willingness to engage in conflict. However, she or he backs away from the conflict by giving in to appease the other party. So this is basically somebody viewed as being, I look at the first one as someone being scared. I view this one as being somebody being too weak and timid. Competition shows a preference for coming out ahead at the expense of the other party, and is also called the win-lose style. And this is when, it's too much of a competition for you. And now it's like, you know what, doggone it, I'm going to win or die. And so I'm going to all in, because my goal is to win today. I don't care what has happened. I need to win. And you can see, obviously, for obvious reasons, you see why that's not a good thing. Collaboration shows a preference for working with the other side to find a solution that pleases both parties. And this is where you would think a lot of people would want to be. That's one of the places you want to be. And a compromise shows a preference for giving a little and gaining a little to manage the issue. Like I said, you have something that may not mean that much to you, but it may mean something a lot to someone else. This is your opportunity to compromise a little bit, because there will come a time when you may want them to compromise with you. So managing a group. So each of these 5 styles has a time and place in which they are appropriate. So obviously, now you can't look at it and say, well, one is just bad all the time. No, it's not. Integrated approaches help participants integrate goals and needs, tend to elicit better decisions, establish roles, collaborate, sometimes compromise, and avoid confrontation. Group norms are a way to productively manage the different conflict styles within a group. Conflict management styles are based on cultural norms and expectations. So when you talk about managing a group, what you find is these groups will develop norms. And that's one of the ways you kind of manage the conflict. Norms is the kind of like this SOP, standard operating procedure, with how you guys have chose to deal with things. And so therefore we work within this norm, and this is why we can get things done. And when you see the conflict management styles, a lot of times it's based on cultural norms and expectations. One of the things you find now, since we have a global society, and we have all these international people from all over the world in the United States, and people working virtual around the world in different time zones, this cultural norms and expectations is significant, very significant, because sometimes when some managers are having problems with some of their direct reports in another country, sometimes it's because of this cultural norms, or they're different. Managing conflict in a group, and the manner in which you disagree impacts how conflict unfolds. All group members should express disagreement ethically. So the thing is, you never want to get to the point where you're not being ethical and you're not being professional, because then things can go south real bad. So you want to express your disagreement in a timely way, express your disagreement with sensitivity towards the rest of the group, react to the disagreement with the spirit of inquiry, not defensiveness. So this is kind of setting the tone where, we're getting into this, but I'm going to be coming from an ethical and professional standpoint. And subsequently, you want everybody else to do the same. And this is how you keep from getting bad disagreements or the wheels coming off the negotiation. Your communication can maximize your chances to influence a group. Make sure your arguments of high quality. If you're arguing things, make sure it's high quality, things that are significant, of high quality. Don't argue over who bought bottles of water to the office last time. I mean, Make sure they're high quality and they're relevant to what it is you're dealing with. Make sure your arguments are consistent. If you're making arguments about something one day or one week, another day and another week, stay consistent with that. If you are a member of a subgroup, make sure all the subgroup members publicly agree with one another. So if you have a subgroup, which is basically a group within a group, you got to make sure that everybody's publicly agreement with one another, and everybody knows that. So you can't have a main group that agrees on something, but the subgroup does not. Nominal group technique, a group idea generation technique to help members reach a decision on a controversial issue without bitterness from a win-lose conflict. The steps are as follows. The problem is stated clearly. The coordinator asks participants to list features of the problem. Coordinator gives the group time to work silently. Each suggestion is listed and recorded in a round robin. So when you look at this nominal group technique, this is an orderly fashion. You see, you have a coordinator. And this is one of the ways, just to say, this is going to be really good, particularly if you have a group that struggles to negotiate on their own accord, because you have a few people that may not play fair in the sandbox. This is one of the good ways to kind of, for someone, a neutral party coordinator, to take charge of that and help out with the process. So, members clarify items. This is further is what we're talking about now. The coordinator is working with them, so the members clarify the items. Each person chooses his or her top ranked items. Group engages in a discussion on the top ranked items. A decision is rendered. So you see how orderly this is. And when you do that, it's like there's a method to the madness. So when you go about doing this is something that's really good for keeping order, keeping people civil, keeping people professional, and making sure that everybody plays fair in the sandbox. So, principal negotiation. A negotiation management technique grounded in the premise that without communication, there simply is no negotiation, and that communication must allow individuals to be heard in ways that do not damage relationships. So steps as follows. Separate the people from the problem. Do not look at the person who's stating the problem as the problem. The problem is being verbalized, but it's not Mary. It's what Mary's saying. She's talking about the problem, but she's not the problem. You got to look at that. Focus on interests, not positions. Bottom line is this. Some people, if you focus on positions, you know what? I may outrank you, so therefore I'm not listening to you. Or vice versa. Or I'm listening to this position more because I think they got more expertise than this person over here, so I don't value what they say because I don't value their position. Focus on the interest, which everybody should have a common interest. Invent new options for mutual agreement. Find ways to find a mutual agreement. And when we're chatting and you're talking with each other in a civil and orderly fashion, that you can find. Insist on using objective criteria. Make sure that your criteria you're using is something that makes sense and it's objective. You're talking about something that's, bottom line is what we see. The problem is we all agree what that is. We understand what our objective is. We know what we have to do and how we would like to go about doing it. That concludes this chapter.